I know when I was 18, I saw this play on Broadway. I think it was the last year of its Broadway run. And I was at university, and we were going to see a bunch of Broadway shows, my first trip to Broadway. And I knew this was one of the shows, and I definitely selected it. But I hadn't read the play. And I distinctly remember walking out of that theater and not having any words. Not because I was silenced, but because I had ingested so much information came to me, not only about other Black women's experiences, but about the many ways in which to express those experiences. The way Ntozake Shange writes, she really throws away the King's English. She writes the way she hears things. She structures sentences in the way they most have resonance. She crafts stories that seem everyday, but she elevates them to the most poetic. And she takes things that people say are low art, social dance. And she says, no, this dance is a spiritual communication. It's the spirit inside of the body communicating to the earth. So she doesn't say it's just a way to dance at a club. She says something more is happening. Most people from a dominant culture, when they read books when you're growing up, see people who look like them in books. And I was 18 the first time I read a book by an author of African descent. And all the characters were Black, and that book was A Raisin in the Sun. And I used one of the monologues from that play to audition for theater school. The thing about that play, A Raisin in the Sun, it was the first play, the first successful play by an author of African descent on Broadway. The second most successful play by an author of African descent at that time, in 1979, was For Colored Girls Who've Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Is Enough. And so within a span of a year, I'd read work by a Black author that featured Black characters. And even though the story that was being told in A Raisin in the Sun was not a story that I had experienced, my family have been middle class from as far back as I can recall. We've owned our own house from as far back as I can recall. A Raisin in the Sun spoke to me and spoke about me in a way I had never before experienced in literature. Similarly, For Colored Girls spoke to my deepest spirit, to my emotions. In a way, the notion that you tell story and you move and that there's chanting and singing felt like that rang true inside of me. It was also extraordinary to see women telling their stories. You know, I think until last fall, when people said, well, sexism is over, often we dismissed it, but we were quiet if you're a woman. Now it's clear for all to see sexism is alive and well and living in this society. For me to go to a Broadway production that spoke about sexism and racism, it not only reinforced that I was not crazy, but it told me how other people, what strategies they had to get through it, to not let it push them over the edge. I love talented people that are also generous, giving, that are fun to be around. And fortunately, I have selected a group of people who are just that. And it really has been a gift. The people on the creative team, the people in the cast. are not only extremely talented, but they are extraordinary human beings. Not only are we preparing to give something to the audience about to come, but we are also nurturing and giving something to ourselves in the process. It reminds me why I do this, why I do theater. If the performances can even replicate the process by 40%, people coming to the show will enjoy themselves. It'll be fun. It will be sad, but joyous.